Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 9th overall spot using FantasyPro's Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's mock draft are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, a kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. We're going to be drafting up against the expert consensus rankings, as well as the composite ADP from ESPN, NFL Sleeper, and RT Sports. The only adjustment I made to positional values is wide receiver, increasing it to high, because I feel like this year, unlike in years prior, we are going to be seeing a lot more wide receivers go early on in fantasy football drafts. Before we can get on into this 10-team PPR mock draft from the 9th overall spot, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get on into this 10-team PPR mock draft from the 9th overall spot. So something we talk about in all of these 10-team mock drafts is how my strategy differs from a 10 to a 12-team league. We're going to do this in a shorter manner. So the way I think about things is, in a 10-team league, essentially every single team is going to be stacked. It doesn't matter if the people playing in your league aren't as knowledgeable about the NFL as you. They are still probably going to end up being able to draft a solid team because there are only 10 teams in the league. Whereas in a 12-team league, there are going to be some teams that are straight up dog shit, that aren't very good. So in 10-team leagues, the way you want to be able to get over on your opponent's stacked teams is by having that elite quarterback, having that elite tight end, which is why I am a lot more comfortable drafting a guy like Travis Kelce significantly earlier in a 10-team league compared to where I would in a 12-team league. So the draft begins with Jefferson, McCaffrey, Eckler, Jamar Chase, Tony Pollard, Cooper Kupp, Saquon Barkley, and Travis Kelce. Nothing really all that out of the ordinary, if I'm being honest with you. I think typically you would see Bijan Robinson get selected ahead of Tony Pollard. But besides that, I don't think that's really all that crazy. I think Tony Pollard, as people get more and more into Tony Pollard, as they really start to understand that this guy is going to see so many touches in this backfield, he is going to be a key component of this Dallas Cowboys offense. I think Pollard could easily be a first-round pick come late August. Obviously, we aren't able to get Travis Kelce in this one, but my point does still stand. I really do think having that elite tight end is what could take you over the top in a 10-team league. Same thing goes with getting that Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, or maybe even finding a later round quarterback who is able to finish as a top 3 quarterback. So looking at the board right now, for me, it is a very obvious pick. Tyreek Hill is the best player still available. I think that Tyreek Hill could easily put up over 2,000 receiving yards this season. I think the Miami Dolphins offense is going to be one of the best offenses in the National Football League. If Tua Tagovailoa is able to stay healthy, Tyreek Hill could easily be the #1 wide receiver. I am ecstatic about this Miami Dolphins offense, and I think that a lot of people are going to be disappointed that they faded away from the Dolphins just because of Tua's potential injury risk. I get that it's certainly there, but for me, the upside certainly outweighs the risk. So after we go with Tyreek Hill, come Stephon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb. So we're back up on the board. Best receivers available: A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Best running backs: Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. So we are going to go with Bijan Robinson here. If you guys think it's unlikely that Bijan falls into the second round, let me just give you the reason why and how this would happen. This happens because a lot of people are scared shitless of drafting a rookie running back in the first round. They may have drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round of his rookie year, and they got bent over a table by that. So they're nervous about Bijan. He's on the bad Atlanta Falcons, this, that, and the other thing. Ultimately, he is going to see so many touches game in and game out. The Atlanta Falcons ran Tyler Algier like he was prime Walter Payton, so you better believe when they draft Bijan Robinson with that super high NFL draft capital, they are going to force feed him the rock. If Bijan wasn't available, I probably would have ended up going with either A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams, or going with 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. I'm a huge fan of Bijan Robinson this year, and again, I don't think it's really that crazy for him to fall into the second round. I'm comfortable taking him in the middle of the first round. But I recognize there are going to be leagues where he does fall. After Bijan Robinson, we see Devontae Adams fall by 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, Pat Mahomes, Garrett Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Jaylen Waddle away, Waddle to the very next day, Joe Mixon, Mark Andrews, Chris Olave, Josh Allen, Ramondre Stevenson, and Jalen Hurts. It's always, for me, when the quarterbacks start to fall into the late third, a real kick to the cojones when I'm not able to get Hurts or Allen. I really think, again, having that upper echelon quarterback in a 10-team league really can help you take you over the top. And even in 12-team leagues, in years prior, I was someone that thought you were a buffoon if you wanted to draft a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, but I've started to really catch on to it, and there's also just that safety factor. The same thing with drafting Kelsey or Mark Andrews early, right? You just feel so safe every single week with that tight end that has the 30-plus point upside that you know is never really going to set your team on fucking fire by scoring 3 fantasy points, whereas if you wait super late on tight end, that is a possibility. So right now we got Bijan and Tyreek Hill, a very solid start. So we are now in the running back zone where things start to get gross, right? Najee Harris, I think, is the workhorse back for Pittsburgh, but what if Najee Harris just stinks and the team starts to realize that Jaylen Warren's a little bit better and Najee Harris's workload dips? He's not very efficient, so if his workload dips, then he's going to end up being a bust in fantasy. Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook could show up out of nowhere like an RKO from Randy Orton and completely ruin any value Breece Hall has. Travis Etienne, I'm worried about his goal line usage going down with Tank Bigsby there. I'm worried about Tank Bigsby stealing a lot more than just the goal line carries, taking some targets away. They add Calvin Ridley. So is Travis Etienne going to be this huge target for the Jaguars? Probably not. Aaron Jones, I like him. Not in the 3rd round. Jahmyr Gibbs I like, but I'd be a lot more comfortable in the 4th round. So that's kind of just how I feel on the running back. So to me, we're basically locked into going wide receiver, tight end, or quarterback, but I don't want to take Hawkinson in the 3rd round when Andrews just went a couple picks before, and I don't want to take Lamar when we just saw the big 3 quarterbacks come off the board shortly before. So we're going to go receiver, Devontae Smith, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, best available. I think if you want to talk about safety, T. Higgins is the safest receiver here by far. He is going to finish every single week as wide receiver 10 through 18. He's probably never going to sink your ship, but he's also probably never going to take you over the top unless there's an injury to Jamar Chase. The added part that Jamar Chase, or not that Jamar Chase, that Joe Shiesty is a little bit banged up. Maybe Joe Burrow misses some time during the season, does concern me enough to go with Devontae Smith over him. Devontae Smith is a speedster. He's in one of the best offenses in the National Football League. Obviously, A.J. Brown is ahead of him, but if something was to happen to A.J. Brown, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, there is a realm of possibilities where Devontae Smith finishes top 5, and there's also a realm of possibilities where the Philadelphia offense is just smacking the shit out of people, Will Smith style, and both of them finish as like top 8 wide receivers after Smith, Breece Hall, followed by Ron Jones. So we're back up on the board here, and I do have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked the highest at running back, so I think this might be where we go. It's between him and Najee Harris. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a steal in fantasy drafts this season. This guy is a fantastic pass catcher. He's great running in between the tackles, outside the tackles, and I think he's going to be on one of the best offenses in the NFL. But I will acknowledge that there is David Montgomery there. There is the obvious thing that is going to happen, that if Jahmyr Gibbs runs 99 yards and he falls on the 1-yard line, then you know what they're going to do? They're not giving it right back to Jahmyr Gibbs. They're giving it to David Montgomery. It is going to be the Jamal Williams experience all over again. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be given and granted more opportunity than DeAndre Swift was. It seemed like the coaches last year hated DeAndre Swift's guts. So I think Jahmyr Gibbs, the guy that everyone fucking ejaculated in the Detroit Lions room when they drafted him, I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be afforded a lot more opportunities. I think the pass catching upside makes me excited about him. I think if you're talking about pure safety, Najee Harris is probably safer, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs could really excel as like a top 8 back, whereas I don't really think Najee Harris is going to be able to do that. So we're going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs here. Might say that it's a little bit of a reach, but ultimately I've been someone banging the drum for Jahmyr Gibbs all offseason. I'm going to continue to do that. I know some people might be nervous. Nick, you drafted 2 rookie running backs, well, I don't even really look at Bijan as a rookie running back. I get Jahmyr Gibbs. It might take some time to really take over in this offense, but I think they're going to use him a ton. I think he's going to run out wide, especially a lot early on the season when Jameson Williams isn't there, and I'm a big fan of the talent that Jahmyr Gibbs possesses dating back to his college days. So after Jahmyr Gibbs, we see Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Hopkins. The fifth opens with Tyler Lockett in my pocket. Skirt, Deebo Samuel, Lamar Jackson, Miles Sanders, Cam Akers, DJ Moore, Amari Cooper, and Terry McLaurin. I am so shocked that Amari Cooper continues to fall in fantasy football drafts. I am a huge fan of the Cleveland Browns this year. I know Deshaun Watson was a steaming pile of dog shit last year. I know Deshaun Watson was terrible, but I see him bouncing back in a big way, and I think Amari Cooper is the clear alpha wide receiver in this offense. So we started our team with Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, Tyreek Hill, and Devontae Smith. So I feel pretty confident in our running back core to where I don't think we have to reach on a Dobbins, a Connor, a Pierce. At this point, I feel a lot more comfortable going wide receiver. Godwin, London, Judy, Watson, Deontay Johnson, all the best available wide receivers. We could go with Joe Shiesty, could go with Justin Fields, but this kind of feels like more of a draft where we are going to want to wait on quarterback. Unless Fields has like a crazy tumble like Humpty Dumpty off of that wall. So Godwin, best available wide receiver. I don't think he's the best available wide receiver. I think he could have a good year. There's a lot of things to worry about with the Bucs. Obviously, Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask is like choosing between getting stabbed in the eyes or getting shot in the back of the forehead, right? It is just not an ideal situation, but at the same time, this is going to be a team that needs to throw the ball a shit ton. Maybe Baker Mayfield pulls a rabbit out of his hat and has a good season. I think that is possible. I think Godwin's going to see a lot of targets, but will the touchdowns come his way? Drake London is on the Atlanta Falcons offense. Now, if I didn't already draft Bijan, I think I'd be fine drafting Drake London, but something I talk about and have talked about in these mocks is if I'm paying like top 5 round draft capital for 2 players on the same team, you need to be one of the best teams in the NFL. If I fall into drafting Mixon and Jamar Chase, right, I don't feel that bad because I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be amazing. If I so happen to draft maybe Breece Hall, say Breece Hall, locked and loaded as the RB1, and I get Garrett Wilson, I'm not that mad because I like the Jets offense. The Atlanta Falcons offense, right, there's reason to believe that they could just suck complete and utter ass. So I'm not really as confident doing that. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is the clear number 1 in Denver, but there's obviously the worries that maybe Russell Wilson just isn't that guy. Maybe Russell Wilson has lost all of that luster. I like Christian Watson the most out of these wide receivers, but I think since, again, something I preach all the time, if you're doing a bunch of fantasy football drafts, you don't want to just draft the same guys every time, right? You guys already know I love Christian Watson. I love Deontay Johnson. I love Michael Pittman Jr., so I'd rather go with a guy that I don't draft as much. So that would either be Jerry Jeudy or Chris Godwin. I think we'll go with Jerry Jeudy here, and if Godwin comes back, we might end up drafting him. Again, I don't hate Chris Godwin. I just feel as though drafting him in the 6th round with knowing how the Buccaneers might just suck ass, it feels a little gross. And again, when I say that they might suck ass, they might literally be the worst offense in the NFL by a wide margin. So after Jeudy, we see Alexander Mattison followed by Chris Godwin. Interesting to see that Hawkinson is still on the board in the 6th round. I don't know how often that would actually happen. Feels like good value here, though there are reports that he hasn't been practicing. Why the hell would the fantasy pros have that, right? Maybe it's a contract situation. I don't know. That does kind of worry me a little bit, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not saying that I'm fading Hawkinson right now, but that would be enough to kind of make me a little nervous, right? It feels like all these players are trying to hold out. I don't know who actually has the balls to do it, but maybe Hawkinson does, and right now, that just scares me a little bit. Again, not full-on panic mode, but it scares me a little bit. So looking at the board here, probably going to go wide receiver here, because again, with Gibbs and Robinson, I don't feel like I need to reach on like a James Conner Dobbins type, so I think we're just going to end up going with either a quarterback or wide receiver. I don't think any of Watson, Johnson, or Michael Pittman are going to fall back to me, but there are some wide receivers I like a little bit later that I would be fine with. Again, I don't like them as much as those guys, but I'd be fine with. So I think we're going to go quarterback here. We take Justin Fields so often, but man, this is a guy that I am addicted to drafting. Hi, my name is Nick, and I have a fucking Justin Fields addiction. This guy could rush for over 1,000 rushing yards. He could throw for maybe 4,000 plus passing yards. Now, I know if you look at his stats in the NFL, they haven't been the greatest, but if you go back to college, this guy was really just slicing defenses up like his name was O.J. Simpson. I really think that Justin Fields is going to slinging slash his way through defenses. I think the addition of DJ Moore is huge for him, and I think the addition of the offensive line, I feel like the offensive line has gotten a little bit better. I don't think that losing David Montgomery is a huge loss. Obviously, I think David Montgomery is better than Khalil Herbert, but not by a wide margin. They have Roquan Johnson. They also have Donta Foreman. I think the Bears, again, I don't think they're like some Super Bowl contenders, but they're a sneaky good team. After Fields, Dameon Pierce, Joe Shiesty, George Kittle, Darren Waller, Brandon Ayuk, TJ Hawkinson, Alvin Kamara, and Rachaad White. I talked about this in yesterday's mock. In the 6th round, you are really hoping that Kamara is the guy he wasn't last year and a guy prior to what he was last year. Last year, that was not the same Kamara that we are used to. You got to worry about the fact that Jamal Williams is there, who just scored 7 gazillion touchdowns in Detroit. I'm a bit worried about Kendre Miller being there, and maybe 3-game suspension leads to Kendre Miller having a stronger role, Jamal Williams having a stronger role, and they also have the behemoth in Taysom Hill, who might just run in 7 touchdowns this season somehow. Again, that's all taking away from Kamara. This seems like a gross situation to be in, if I'm being honest with you. I get the upside, so I'm probably not going to end up full fading Kamara, but in the 6th round of a 10-team league, like, that just doesn't really seem the best to me. I know there's going to be people that love Kamara, but just not for me. The 7th opens with Deshaun Watson, Drizzy Drake, London, Christian Watson, Justin Herbert, the pervert, Deontay Johnson, Dalvin Cook, Mike Williams, and Mike Evans. Back-to-back Mikes. If you guys have ended up enjoying this video thus far, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. It helps me out a ton. And leave me a comment down below on how you like this team. You love it, you hate it, let me know. So right here, we are having a trouble in paradise. We have 2 players that I've been smash drafting a lot of drafts, James Conner and Michael Pittman. I think because the running backs, once you get really deep down here, like, I like Montgomery, but I'm not drafting Montgomery when I have Jahmyr Gibbs. I just don't see a reason to do that. Right? I didn't pay 4th round draft capital for Jahmyr Gibbs to draft fucking David Johnson in the 7th round. I like Swift. I like Javonte Williams. I like Pacheco. I like Cook. I like Gibson. But there seems like a fall off here. I know the Arizona Cardinals offense is going to be shit, but without Kyler, James Conner was literally one of the best running backs in fantasy football over the last couple of years. He, like this says, right? When Conner was healthy in 2022, you could argue his elite production and role in the Arizona Cardinals offense. He was the RB4 overall in his last 8 games, right? This guy's legit. He is actually good, and he is coming at a strong discount because, again, Kyler Murray is hurt, and everyone and their mother is scared shitless of Drake. It's like when you see naked grandma. You know, you see your grandma naked, you probably shivered down your spine, right? That's what the Arizona Cardinals, that was a shitty joke. I used to think that video was so funny. There's no way anyone that found that to be funny, but yeah, I think people are so scared of the Arizona Cardinals offense, and I'm just not. Like, Kyler could come back. He might come back by like week 3. I don't think he should, realistically, right? If the Cardinals are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, you just hold him out. You play Colt 45 and 2 zigzags McCoy, or you play Clayton Tune. But I don't think that's what's going to end up happening. I think that maybe Kyler comes back a little earlier. After James Conner, Trevor Lawrence, and DeAndre Swift. So we're still without a tight end, but there was a large tight end run when Hawk, Waller, and Kittle came off the board. I am all in on Darren Waller. I have been singing the praises ever since he showed up in a Giants uniform, ever since he was traded from the Las Vegas Raiders. But man, oh man, he has been dominating in training camp. Like, there's reports that they cannot stop him. He's like fucking Genghis Khan in the red zone. So I'm a huge fan of Darren Waller. Looking at the board here, we're not going to go running back. I'm scared of J.K. Dobbins. He had that knee surgery, but like, Harbaugh's already talking about how he's on the PUP list. They're scared of him not coming back. He wants more money. This, that, and the other thing. Again, this could all be sorted by the end of August, and maybe I sound stupid. But right now, I'm not chasing the risk. I'm not just drafting some guy. Like, I think Josh Jacobs is going to come back. I think Josh Jacobs is so good that I'm willing to take the risk in the 3rd round on him. I don't think J.K. Dobbins is good enough for even in the 8th round to take a risk on him because of that. So we're going to go with Michael Pittman here. The Indianapolis Colts offense is going to be good under Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson has been destroying the defense in training camp. I believe in the last 2 days, he only had like 3 incompletions or something like that. Now, obviously, the Colts defense isn't the second coming of the 85 Bears, but a lot of people question Anthony Richardson's accuracy, him throwing the ball. Basically, the only thing that a lot of people like is his rushing ability. But I really think Michael Pittman has sung the praises heavily of the quarterback. He was dealing with a minor hip injury a couple months ago, but that hasn't really been something that I've seen constantly harped upon. I think Michael Pittman really does have the upside to be like a top 12 receiver if this Colts offense smashes, which I think they could. Again, they don't have the best defense ever either. So after Pittman, we see Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Kadarius Toney, Danny Dimes, David Montgomery, George Pickens, J.K. Dobbins, Brandon Cooks. The 9th opens with Juju Smith-Schuster, Corvette, Jackson Smith, Najigba, the 49ers defense, Javonte Williams, James Cook, Eagles, Jordan Addison Ray, and Isaiah Pacheco. So we're back up on the board here. We still don't have a tight end. I like Pitts. I like Goddard, but I think I'm just going to wait until the next pick and see if a tight end falls to us. This guy doesn't have a tight end, or gal. The computer might be a guy, could be a gal. You never know. But if they take one, I'll just take the other. So I'm fine doing that. So we're probably going to go receiver here. We don't have anyone on the Commanders. I'm starting to kind of like, I don't like Treylon Burks in redraft, but I do kind of like him in best ball because I think the Tennessee Titans offense could be a little bit better than people think. But I do think the fact that they have DeAndre Hopkins there really sinks his value in redraft. Like weekly, you're never going to really want to know, or you're never going to really know when to start Burks. Obviously, you're going to be targeting the more positive matchups defensively, but you're never really going to feel fully confident in playing Burks. Whereas in best ball, where you just draft him, and then he just shows up in your lineup when he does really good. I think he's going to have a lot of spike games, but his safety is going to be very low. Sutton's a guy I've tried to talk myself into as well. There's been a lot of positive reports out of camp. I think the fact that Tim Patrick ended up tearing his ACL, I believe it was a bad injury, sucks. I love Tim Patrick, so I'm sad to hear that. But that does help out Sutton. Gabe Davis is going so late to the point where I kind of like him. I kind of like Michael Thomas as well. But I've been on the Jahan Dotson bandwagon all offseason. I think that regardless of if it's Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell for a majority of the games, I don't think it's going to matter. I think Eric Bieniemy is going to step up this offense. If you look towards the end of the season, just like it says here, right, in weeks 13 through 18 of last season, Dotson ranked 20th in target share, 3rd in red zone or an ed zone target share, and 17th in weighted opportunity, 13th in yards per out run, right? This guy was really good towards the end of last season, had a lot of spike games. I think this is a Commanders offense that is going to be buzzing at maximum velocity. After Jahan Dotson, we see Jerick McKinnon and Gabe Davis. Now, I think based upon how this league is set up, right, where it's 2 receivers, 2 flexes, 2 running backs, at all times, you might just be starting 4 receivers, right? I know James Conner's good, so he might be in the flex a lot. But in a lot of positive matchups, right, it might be Hill, Smith, and then a mismatch of Jerry Jeudy and Michael Pittman and Jahan Dotson. So I think in this kind of a league, you want to attack with the setup more wide receivers compared to a normal 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. So we're back up on the clock. Obviously, quarterbacks are we're not taking quarterback because we already have Fields. If you draft Fields high, you draft quarterback high, you don't need a backup. Tight end, still looking at Goddard, Pitts. I like Pitts a ton. I think Goddard's really safe, though. And again, this is another one of those cases where it's like, oh, you're going to have 2 guys on Philly starting your lineup at all times. Well, they're the Eagles. They're supposed to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. It's not like I'm starting 2 Steelers, right? I think the Steelers are going to be a little bit better than last year, but obviously Kenny Pickett versus Jalen Hurts, it's fucking night and day. Like 2 completely opposite things. So we are going to go with a tight end here. We've been taking Pitts a ton, so we're going to go Goddard again. I think he's more of the safer option over Pitts, but I would have been fine with Pitts there as well. Had Pitts or Goddard not been available, I probably would have just waited much later, gotten a Higbee or Dulcich, one of those guys super late. So after we go with Goddard, A.J. Dillon, Cortland Sutton, Jamal Williams, Samaje Perine, Antonio Gibson, Michael Thomas, Treylon Burks, Elijah Moore, Khalil Herbert, Kyle Pitts, Brian Robinson, Zach Charbonnet, Rashad Penny, Jeff Wilson Jr., Odell Beckham Jr., and the Buffalo Bills defense. A lot of these players that are going late, we're going to be talking about in our video a little bit later. 10 players skyrocketing up my rankings. Now, a lot of you guys, if you watch a lot of my videos, you would probably guess some of these players just off the top of your head because I've been taking them more in mock drafts. I've been talking about them a little bit more. Again, with Goddard, I don't really think you need a backup tight end either. So the rest of these picks will be running backs and wide receivers, and then obviously a defense and a kicker. Bateman being banged up does kind of scare me. Could be back soon per Harbaugh. I don't know. The fact that they drafted Zay Flowers, the fact that they have Odell Beckham Jr., I think this Ravens offense is going to be solid for fantasy. I think they're going to be throwing the ball a decent amount. So it is an offense I definitely want to attack, but I don't know if Rashad Bateman would be, since he's going first out of those guys, I don't think he'd be like my prime pick. We are late enough into the draft where I'm fine taking Devin 2 Chains of the Dolphins. Obviously, this is something we've talked about a ton over the last couple of weeks. Dalvin Cook could come in here and just ruin everything. A-Chain has been looking good in training camp. He did get banged up the other day with an undisclosed injury. Doesn't seem like anything crazy, but something to clearly monitor. Devin A-Chain was incredibly fast in college. He's one of those guys that's going to be a great pass catcher for the Dolphins. Tua dumps it off to him. He makes one cut, and he could literally run 99 yards, fucking NFL Street game breaker style. Again, another guy. You have A-Chain. You also have Hill. Are you scared? No, because I think the Dolphins are going to be one of the better offenses. If this was a running back and a receiver on a worse team, I would be a lot more nervous. So we are probably going to end up going running back again here because we do have 3 rookie running backs on the team. So maybe early on, Gibbs isn't getting as much work. A-Chain is getting as much work, so a little bit more scary to play. We kind of want to get more of a veteran presence onto this team. So we are going to go with Damian Harris here. I have talked myself a lot into James Cook, and I think James Cook is going to be good. But I also think Damian Harris holds some value. He's going to see a decent amount of carries on the team. I know Devin Singletary was a huge bust last year. I talked up Devin Singletary because he was on the Bills. I didn't think James Cook was going to do a lot in his rookie year, but I think Damian Harris is just miles away better than Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary has been sent to the wall, metaphorically Game of Thrones style, to the fucking Houston Texans. He's on the watch now. And Damian Harris has been elevated into a great situation in Buffalo. After Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Quentin Johnston, Kendre Miller, David Njoku, Kenneth Gainwell, Jacoby Myers, Evan Ingram, Rashad Bateman, Pat Freiermuth, Tyler Algier, Cole Kmet, Geno Smith, Anthony Richardson, Juwan Johnson, Dalton Kincaid, and Adam Thielen. Now, something I will always remember is that play for the Patriots where Jacoby Myers launched the ball back to Mac Jones, and then Mac Jones got stiff-armed into Middle Earth by a Raiders player. Now Jacoby Myers on the Raiders. Just something I figured out to bring up. He's not a guy I'm targeting in fantasy drafts, but that's just an all-time moment. I feel like all of you guys who watched football last year, you will have remembered that. It was so fucking funny when that happened. So looking at the board here, Rondale, Nico, Allen Lazard at receiver, running backs, Singletary, Warren, Mostert. We already got A-Chain, so I don't really want to draft A-Chain and Mostert. Again, we don't need a backup tight end or a backup quarterback. I've been all over Nico Collins, but I'm starting to draft a little bit more of his teammate John Mechie as well. I love Rondale Moore, but again, do I really want 2 guys on the Arizona Cardinals on the same team? Probably not. Lazard's a guy that I've been fading, but there is really a chance that Lazard ends up fucking around and being the clear number 2 receiver in New York behind Garrett Wilson. He hasn't been practicing with a leg injury. Again, I've read it hasn't been anything serious, practice due to muscle tightness. Robert Saleh downplayed it, so it doesn't seem to be anything crazy serious with Lazard. But again, something to monitor. I don't know if he's back at practice yet. I don't think so. I don't think I've read that he's been back to practice. But again, something to monitor. I think this Jets offense is going to be pretty good. Lazard probably will end up being a swing and a miss. But if you think the Jets offense projects to be really good in the 13th round, it's not that crazy. If you're in the 10th round, yeah, it is fucking crazy to draft that. But in the 13th round, I don't think we're going to look too crazy for doing that. And then we'll close out with another wide receiver here. You could go running back as well. So I'll give you guys 2 picks. I'll only pick one of them. But if you're going to go running back, Tank Bigsby is the clear answer for me. I'm a big fan of this Jags offense. I think Gus Edwards has some value as well in Baltimore if JK sits out. We're going to go receiver. We're going to go with Jameson Williams this time. There's been a lot of negative comments about Jameson Williams, but I'm not really listening to that noise. I think I was someone who faded Jamar Chase because of all that negativity in Jamar Chase's rookie year, and I look like a complete and utter fucking dunce, so I'm not doing that again with the elite talent. They're struggling a bit in training camp. He's suspended for 6 games, so if you are in a league where you cannot put suspended players on the IR, I'm probably not drafting Jameson Williams here. I'm going to go for like Nico Collins or Romeo Dobbs, but assuming you can put him on the IR, because he's suspended, I'm willing to draft him. Again, that does heavily change my strategy. I would rather just not have a guy burning 6 games on my bench if I couldn't put him on the IR, if I'm being honest with you. So looking at the board, after Jameson Williams, Raheem Mostert, Donta Foreman, Jalen Warren, Tank Bigsby, Jerome Ford, Chuba Hubbard, Darnell, here comes the Mooney, Patterson, bunch of kickers, bunch of defenses, Rondell Moore, and Jalen Hyatt, and Ezekiel Elliott. So we're going to go with kicker first. Again, if you are one of the first people to take kickers, I think you should just take whichever one, like sprinkle them around. If you're in 10 leagues, take Bucker and some, Carlson and some, McPherson and some, Tucker and others, you know what I'm saying? So, and Tyler Bass. We're going to go with Daniel Carlson this time again, but I would just spread around my ownership every single time, just take a different one. And then for defense, you want to draft the defense playing up against a not-so-hot opponent in week 1. The Broncos got the Raiders. I think that should be a pretty solid matchup, so we will go with them, especially if Josh Jacobs holds out. That'd be great. If Josh Jacobs doesn't hold out, be a little bit more nervous about that. And then every single week, you just switch out your defense. I'll make a video every single week, including for week 1, on defenses to stream, and there'll probably even be a video in late August, defenses to draft, top 5 defenses to draft. So we got an 88 out of 100, but I'm gonna keep it 100. I think this is an A+ team. I love this team. So Justin Fields is our quarterback. Our running backs are Robinson of the Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs. Our receivers are Hill and Devontae Smith. Our tight end is Goddard. Our flexes are Jerry Jeudy and James Conner. Our defense is the Broncos. Our kicker is Carlson. Our bench is comprised of Michael Pittman Jr., Jahan Dotson, Devin A. Chain, 2 chains, Damian Harris, Allen Lazard, and Jameson Williams. So let me know down below in the comment section what you guys thought about my team. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button. I mean, if you made it around 30 minutes into a video and you didn't like it, I'd be shocked. Like, how are you watching the whole time if you fucking hated it? So thank you guys. I love you guys so much. Hope you have a great one. And as always, good boy.